Matt McElligott came to visit Pine Road School in October, and our 4th and 5th grade students had lots of questions for him. Matt McElligott is the author of such books as Benjamin Frankenstein Lives, Benjamin Frankenstein Meets the Fright Brothers, Benjamin Frankenstein Meets Thomas Edison, Backbeard and the Birthday Suit, Backbeard, Pirate for Hire, The Lion's Share, Bean 13, Even Monsters Need Haircuts, and Even Aliens Need Snacks.
What's your question? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you Haley? Who are you?
Lena.
Okay. Hi, Haley.
Hi.
What's your question?
What got you into making the Benjamin Frankenstein series?
Well, the idea originally came from my son, who was a big fan of Franklin the Turtle. And he kept getting Franklin the Turtle mixed up with Frankenstein the monster. So when he talked about Frankenstein, he would call him Franklinstein. And that made me imagine like Benjamin Franklin plus Frankenstein's monster, like combining to make this crazy sort of reanimated founding father. And that's where the idea came from. I stole it from my son. Let's say it was inspired from my son. I didn't really steal it from him. Does that make sense? Okay. Haley, what's your question?
I'm not Haley.
You sure? I thought you said you were Haley.
I said she was Haley.
Okay. Well, what's your question? I thought it was Haley's turn. I'm sorry. Okay. Yes. What's your question?
How did you come up with exciting topics to fit in with already has happened in the Benjamin Frankenstein books?
You mean like after a bunch of stuff happened, how do we figure out what would happen next? Well, from the very beginning, we had an idea for how all 3 stories would go in a very general way. But then figuring out the little details of each adventure, that was the process of writing the book. So Larry and I, my co-writer, he's a good friend of mine, we would get together and sometimes we would just sit on the porch in the summer for hours and just toss out different ideas and make notes and try combining different things together. And the trick was whatever we came up with in the later books had to fit with everything we'd written in the earlier books as well. And sometimes that was tricky. Good. It's nice to meet you. Right. And you're all dressed in pink today. Did you two call each other before school? Okay. What's your question?
What was your first book?
First book I ever had published, it was a book called The Truth About Cousin Ernie's Head. And it came out, what year were you born? 2003. It came out almost 10 years before you were born. It's a long time ago. It's like the Ice Ages. And what's your question?
How long does it take for you to write one book?
Well, it depends. Usually from when I get the idea until the book is finally finished and it's on the shelves of the libraries, it's between 2 and 3 years to do a book. It's a while. What grade are you in? 4th grade. So if you started work on a book today, and you really worked hard on it, and you had to go through all the things about publishing it and everything else, it might be finished by the time you're in 6th grade. It's a long time. You guys had good questions. You had to think about that. You sure that's your name?
Yes.
You sure? Do you have some ID, like a driver's license or something? Okay. What's your question? Michelle?
Misha.
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 Misha. How do you spell that?
M-I-S-H-A.
That's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
What's your question?
Do you like writing books for kids?
I like writing books for kids. It's the kids I don't like. I don't like children at all. I think of children as small monsters. You're not one of those children, are you?
No.
You're not. So you're not sure of your name. You don't know if you're a child. Who are you really? To be honest, I love writing books for kids. In fact, sometimes I think grown-up books are too serious. And I think the things that you can write about in books for kids, like robots and monsters and aliens, that's the fun stuff to write about. That's why I like it. And I really do like kids, too. It's just true. That's again. Take 2? Okay. Why are you here?
Because I have to ask you a question.
You have to ask me a question. You don't want to, but you have to.
No, I want to.
You want to ask me a question. Okay, what is your question?
What inspired you to write Bean 13 and Lion's Share?
Well, each one was a little different. I'll tell you about Beam 13. Beam 13 came about because I was reading about the history of numbers and the history of why certain numbers are unlucky numbers. Do you think of, is 13 an unlucky number to you? Do you think, if you get the number 13 in a game or something like that is an unlucky number for you? I don't think so either. In fact, my initials are MM, and M is the 13th letter of the alphabet. So it's always been good for me. So that was a story about why 13 is unlucky, and it all has to do with prime numbers and all kinds of things like that. But and the lion's share came about after a birthday party I had when we had this really good birthday cake. Really good birthday cake. And after we were all done, there was still one piece left, and nobody wanted to take the last piece of cake, so they started cutting off pieces of it, and as they did, the cake got smaller and smaller, and I thought, there's a good idea for a story in there somewhere. Do you like cake? What is your favorite cake to eat?
Red velvet.
Oh, I like that. I never think about that one. That's a good cake.
If you would like to learn more about Matt McElligott and his books, go to MatthewMcElligott.com. We'd like to thank Matt for coming to visit our school and sharing his time with us.